What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning back in. This is part two. Joined with me is Big Mike once again.
I'm back.
So, part one, we talked a lot about hobbies, talked about gaming in general, and how it really sparked up, certain things in life that we've experienced with it, and just some things that really irritated us and all that. But in part two here, let's actually talk about more about an in-depth view on life. So, as for life in general, besides what you've already experienced, let's talk about what you actually want to experience in life. Like, is there anything exciting you want to do that you think is like a really big thing that usually is only like a once in a lifetime, or do you have several mini things to experience?
I think there's plenty of things, and one thing I did mention during part one was actually not being where I wanted to be fully in my life quite yet, but I'm getting there. And I think that a lot of things that come with that would be changing some of the way I handle things, because there'll even be times where we'll be going on a vacation and I'll ruin the ride there because something happens on the road and I'm just in a pissy mood the rest of the day, or the rest of the ride till we get everything set up. But yeah, I think that if I do want to experience anything greater, I have to fix a couple aspects of my life. Uh, One thing that I do want to get is my GED. I feel like I completely, you know, ruined that. Not so much ruined it for myself, but I could have gotten my GED years ago. That is kind of a once in a lifetime thing that I regret not doing. So that's one thing. Another thing I would say is financial stabilism.
Yeah,
I think that
that's a big one.
100%. I'm constantly every day not knowing what the hell the future holds scares me. Um, and that's one thing I can admit. As in, man, I'm scared of death because I love life every day. As much as stressful as it is, I love life. So I never take it to a step of I don't want to experience life because of the tragedies that are going on. I love life, even in the worst moments. But kind of got a little bit off subject. But what about you? Anything big planned, or anything that gets you excited just talking about it?
I think the overall, you know, idea of goals and just getting to where you want to be is they're just the number one things that kind of help keep you striving and wanting more. But as for actually experiencing stuff in life, um, whether it's actually going to happen, and if it doesn't, then it's life. It is what it is. I'm not going to knock it, but I actually was am given the opportunity to go on a cruise for the first time in my life by my sister. I mean, just it's crazy to think about that because when she told me all the details about it, it it literally it froze me in my tracks because it actually made me think. It's like I'm pushing almost my third decade on this planet, and it's crazy because within over the 2 decades that I've actually been alive so far, there's been hardly anything I've experienced. Like, sure, I've gone to amusement parks and carnivals and stuff like that, and it's fun.
Classic stuff, though.
I've gone to go kart tracks. I've had go karts of my own. I've gone out of state and traveled to another state. I even did something that I thought was really fun based off of what I am interested in. I went on the battleship Wisconsin down at I believe it's Norfolk, Virginia, or Virginia Beach, or wherever it is, when I was visiting family. Like, that was, for me, that was like one of those once in a lifetime things that you just, you never forget one of those moments. And when she told me about the cruise, it really sat there and made me think. It's like, dude, that'll be a cruise, because the details of the cruise was the aspect that it's going to be a cruise around the Hawaiian Islands. So if you think about that, especially location wise, you're talking that's literally halfway around the world, almost anyway. Because I mean, you're at that point, you're damn near almost halfway across the Pacific Ocean, and living in upstate New York, especially when you've come from a poor childhood, something like that, when you're an adult and you're finally realizing that, oh, hey, I'm gonna be able to get out and experience the world. That's just it never really hit me till the next day. It's like, dude, I'm actually gonna get out and experience the world.
And it makes me feel for a lot of the children that are really going through it, regarding not having privilege or being underprivileged, especially in other countries. Because I look back at being a kid and I felt trapped, I really felt trapped. I felt like there was never any other way out of this problem, that, like, my mental health. I think that was due to me being a kid. I didn't have money. I didn't have a car to just say, screw you people, I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
It was I was basically told to shut my mouth.
Yeah.
Or basically, you don't like it, then adios. There was never, like, why do you feel that way? Let's figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
It was just shut your mouth, or mental illness doesn't exist, or, you treat it as a nuisance.
I feel that's how I am. Like, really, even till today, where I'm a grown adult working a full time job. Like, I even feel like that today, and it's crazy because I shouldn't feel like that, but I guess it's just situational based, especially in our economy with the way things are going, and just you can't afford to live on your own. I mean, having a roommate in 2025 is almost an essential, which it used to not be. Before, you could live on your own and be perfectly fine and have extra money. Now you're having a roommate being essential, paying half the rent, and you're still not making enough to make anything extra. You're paying up to what you get in a month's salary. It's absolutely disgusting.
And then you're also still looked down upon.
Yeah.
You hear someone as a roommate, you think, oh shit, they can't afford it by themselves immediately. Or some people do. Any people who think they're entitled. But
yeah, and then
another story.
And then you get told, work harder, or we're 20 years older than you. We worked 3 full-time jobs and this and that. And it's like, yeah, but you also have to realize inflation wasn't a thing back then. You were, subject to the prices at your time with no actual inflation. Like, the pricing for your time was actually correct for what prices were actually at compared to hourly wage or even just yearly salary.
This is coming from the same people who used to be able to stand around the Coke machines and pop quarters in them and get Coca-Colas out, dude.
Yeah, for 1 coin.
For 1 coin. For my mom's friend, he's probably in his 70s now, said that him and his buddies used to stand around and pop nickels in the machine and get Coke. Dude, what do you got to pop in now? 30 nickels to get that? So it's a completely different ball game. And then they come back. They come back. What do they say though, Trevor? They say one thing. Oh, well, we also our money. We also didn't make a lot either. They could say that because their minimum wage was only fucking $5 an hour or whatever.
Yeah, it might have been $5 an hour, but what was the pricing for an apartment?
Yeah,
you had like what, $300 rent, like $5 an hour. You worked on 40 hours a week, and you were able to pay your rent. you were able to pay your bills, utilities, get food for yourself, all that.
And still have 3 other checks to play with for the rest of the month, basically.
But almost, basically.
What the hell? Like, that's why you guys had nice cars. You know?
Now we're not saying that was the way it was for everyone, because obviously it's not. It's not by any means. But the vast majority of people, yes, that's the way it was. Especially if you were a person that strived to want more, you definitely had all of that. Like, you definitely you had enough money where one paycheck, you had everything paid, you were set. Everything else, you were either saving or you were, living life the way you wanted. We don't have that luxury now. We're sometimes lucky if we can even spend $5 or $10 on, like, what? A nice little meal from the gas station that's something different.
I mean, one thing I know is we're basically in the highest poverty level or homelessness level of the entire Earth's existence. As we speak, we have the most highest homeless population ever.
Yep.
You could sit there and say, as a boomer, that it's because young people don't want to work. They would rather be homeless than work. You're damn right. They probably are. You know why? Because majority of the time when young kids go to these jobs, the veterans treat them like garbage. They make them feel lower than them. They don't want to teach them because they already know too much. Who's going to want to jump into a job when all the old guys there basically treat you like the young buck? I mean, dude.
Either that, or
you get stepped on.
Yeah, that you get stepped on, or it's the aspect that employers look at one good employee, knowing the good job that he can do, possibly fulfilling expecting everyone to do that. Not everyone can perform at that same level.
But maybe I'm kind of hypocritical because I'm the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in our line of work, we do partner and team up with other employees, and when we feel like they're not on our par, we may lash out, and in not a sense of lashing out, but like, dude, we gotta figure this out. Why can't you keep up? And maybe I need to take a step back and think maybe he can't do as much as me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm just a overly hard worker, you know.
Yep.
Because I feel like that happens sometimes. He's not doing this fast enough. I say sometimes. Well, Mike, maybe you're too fast, though, Mike. Maybe you're faster than everybody else in that area.
Maybe you're too fast. Is he trained properly? Is he undertrained? You know, are you overtrained compared to what his training is?
I think you're 100% right. Is that I'm overtrained.
Yeah.
For me, running that machine alone, when it's actually a 2-person machine, mind you, alone for over a year probably. I had a second person come in for like a week here and there, and that was just to help me get stuff out or before they got fired, basically.
Yeah, without going into too much detail about our job, because we don't want to put that information out
100%
there.
No. That's why I'm not even naming any machines or anything.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just saying machine.
Basically, what he does at our job is basically, we'll just call it, he's making parts. That's basically what he's doing. And then basically, he has to go around to the other side of the machine if he's working by himself, and he then has to stack the parts on his own. Whereas if he goes around to the other side of the machine, that's where actually he should be having a co-worker that works with him to stack the parts for him. So that way he doesn't have to run all the way around. It creates workflow production going much faster. And it's just that aspect that when he's trained like that, and he's trained to work by himself, you get to a point where you've trained yourself so well to do that, you're working so fast that when you get to the point where you actually have someone, you're still stuck in that mode to where you're working by yourself. But now you don't have to go around to the other side of the machine.
I still catch myself walking over there just to stand there basically and watch that other employee, you know, just out of habit. You know?
I mean, it's not that you're just standing there watching them for no reason. You know, you're training. So you gotta make sure he knows what he's doing, or, you know, just whatever it is. Because, like, depending on if they're switching from another department or if they're starting out fresh. It's just the aspect that, they're not used to it, or maybe they don't get the full gist of the entire position. But
Yeah, no, and I think you're right. Sometimes it may take just that one moment of, oh shit, that's what's going on, to figure it all out.
Mhm.
That's what happened with me. I was confused for months until one day one thing clicked, and I'm like, that's why that happened. That's why that happened. It's a domino. And I think that's the current issue that I'm fighting, is that I can't find an employee or I can't find a coworker that's really seeing that side of it. At least on my side, I know you guys got a beautiful crew, stuff like that. I'm still finding that special one. I think that
one of the problems
I'm looking for me in that coworker. I think too much, and you said it perfectly.
Yeah. One of the problems in 2025 is it's like we already said, that a lot of people don't want to work, not because they're lazy, but just because they just don't want to deal with the burnout.
Oh,
They don't want to deal with, they don't want to work and feel like they have nothing. But that's all they're doing is work, 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 but yet they're seeing no return.
and let's just be honest. No, they're not living paycheck to paycheck. They're not even freaking seeing their paychecks.
Yeah.
They're getting spent before they even see them, man.
And it's all going towards bills, car payment. And this is a big one too. College loans, student loans. It's like, what did you go to school for that specific degree, when literally the employer isn't paying you nothing extra to have that? Literally going to work straight out of high school has been proven more beneficial in the last 5 to 10 years than college is. Now, granted, we can't excuse the fact that, doctors and, other stuff like that require that stuff for you to go to college and get that very specific degree. We can't excuse that is actually, that's actually legit. Like, that's actually very reasonable. That's real. But other stuff, like, simply just asking like, I saw a video where this guy was applying for an accounting job, but yet they wanted years of experience, but he was fresh out of college. Where is he going to get the experience?
Other than starting somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. They were like, oh, well, we need you to have at least 2 years of experience. It's like, yeah, I went to school. Oh, no, we need you to have actual experience in the workforce. And it's like, what am I supposed to do? And then they were like, oh, yeah, McDonald's is hiring. What did I go to school for 2 to 4 years to go work at McDonald's for? Like, that makes no sense.
Yeah, flip a patty. That'll help me change a bolt on an aircraft wing.
Yeah. Let me go to school for freaking science and engineering and all that. Let me go build rockets. Oh, you got any experience? Oh, fresh out of college. Oh, sorry, go work at Burger King making fries.
Yeah, the total opposite of, it's not like, hey, well, in the meantime, we'll put you in an apprentice school or a trade school to get you kind of in that work mode. Dude, college is not work. It's a totally different aspect of life. I think that's what some people do. I've watched way too many people, bro, go to college and waste every single minute they spent there. Degrees, yet they're working at McDonald's or Taco Bell, man. And they got degrees. They could literally say, screw this place, screw you, Jimmy, you got zits on your face, and fuck you, Tim, you smell like ass, and get lost,
Yeah.
I think that they can't, I don't know why, I don't know. And I see it with a lot of young people, too. They're not salvaging their lives. They're just letting them rot.
One of the problems I think is very big is, like me, for example. I never went to college.
Me either.
I was in high school. Matter of fact, I didn't even really graduate high school. I got my GED. And at the same time I was doing GED, I took a trade class. And that trade class was essentially the high school equivalent of a 2-year college class. But it didn't have the same outcome and benefits. Like, all I got was a completion certificate and just a basic set of knowledge for the trade that I went for. And what I went for was mechanics, automotive. Like, that's what I went for. my first job was an automotive mechanic. I mean, did I like the job? Yes. I love the environment. I love, like, because it was a different type of automotive job. Like, I worked in a fleet shop. So, for that aspect, you're looking at it as when you're working on those cars in a fleet, you're not, like, on a severe, limited amount of time to where you have to be quick about the stuff. No. I was on a pace where I could actually sit there and I could think about the problem, think about what I could do to clean up, like, say, for example, if I'm doing a set of brakes on the front or rear, or if I'm doing it all the way around the car. I actually had the time, go through, do everything properly. I didn't have to sit there and, scramble to get it done, cut corners, anything like that. No, I could make sure it was done right the first time. But then, because I had to leave that job because it was only paying $13.50 in 2021 at that, I had to go find another job. Luckily, I went and found another job that was paying, I think it was like 17 or 16 at least. And that was another automotive job. The only problem with that was a job where you dealt with customers. I'm not a social person by any means, and I've had to accept that when it comes to jobs. So with that being a customer service related job where you actually had to physically interact with customers, I just didn't like that. So I ended up leaving that job after only being there for like a day. And that's no exaggeration. It was a day. I left that job. I couldn't handle the stress.
Did you finish the day?
No, not really.
Wait, what?
Yeah, because actually, believe it or not, that day
and what stress caused you to say, fuck, like, I'm done, like, off the rip,
So, the funny thing was I actually really didn't get workplace injury. I mean, I got injured, but it wasn't enough to say, like, it was a workplace injury.
Yeah.
So, I was going to get tires off of the rack in this shop. Now, I'm not going to say what shop, I'm not going to say where. We're just going to put it as
tire shop.
Like, it was a job I was trying to keep, but it didn't work out, and I'm not ashamed of it. But basically, in the back, I was going to get tires for the vehicle that I was working on to get the tires changed. And these were truck tires going on an SUV, which nothing wrong with that, happens all the time. But these tires were like jammed into the rack, and there was probably like, so much space, like it was tight. But then when I was getting the tires out of the rack, I didn't realize that when I was pulling them out, the rack basically had collapsed itself and freaking tires landed on me, and I had to yell for help. Which, a little embarrassing on your first day, you had to yell for help because freaking a rack of tires collapsed on you, but whatever. But there was so much weight that came down that when I got pinned against the other rack, because you're literally in an aisleway that's like this big, essentially, and, you're trying to get tires twice the size of the aisleway, you had to make sure that when you pulled them out, you turn them sideways to get them through the aisle. So, what ended up happening was I pulled the tires out, the tire rack collapsed, the amount of weight of all the tires that came down didn't crush me, luckily, but what they did do was pin me against the other rack on the other side of the aisle, and they pinned my leg, and when they pinned my leg, they ended up freaking spraining my ankle because of the amount of force that came down on it. Now, that wasn't enough to make it a workplace injury. I mean, did it happen in the workplace? Yes, but was I really worried about it? No, I wasn't going to hold the place responsible because it's a sprained ankle. Like, let's be for real. In a few weeks' time, it would have been fully healed anyway, which it was. I mean, still to this day, it's almost 4 years later, and I have had no problems with it. Matter of fact, I've even sprained this ankle again since then, and nothing's happened. Like, it's not that big of a deal. So, what ended up happening from there is, ironically, the next place I went to work at was literally right across the street. So, when you're thinking about that, it's like, oh, competition. I didn't see it that way. I just saw it as a job. That didn't end up working out after like 3 or 4 days because I was told I was going to get training, which, again, not going to say where, not going to say the name, doesn't need to be said. Yeah, I was told I was going to get training. And when that didn't happen, the stress got to me because I was still fresh out of high school, basically, with fleet shop experience. Trying to go into a job that you dealt with every car brand. So I had no idea what I'm getting into and all that. And they were basically trying to throw me to the wolves. Oh, here, go do this, go do that, go do this. And I still needed to shadow the veteran workers to get more knowledge.
So was it a situation of go change the brakes on that Toyota?
No, this was more a situation of go do this basic maintenance, but on a car you've never worked on before with no assistance. And I just didn't like that because I felt like I was being set up for failure. And if that was the case, that they were like going to sue me or something. And it's just like, I didn't feel comfortable with that. So I left that job. And basically at that point, that's when I found the job I have now. I work with this guy and I work with a nice crew of people that, we're all pretty much understanding and on the same page. And almost 4 years later, I'm, what is it now? Freaking from 2021 to 2025, in 4 years, I've made almost, give or take, around the $6-7 wage increase an hour. So I mean, it's not horrible, but at the same time, it's not the greatest. Because believe it or not, I guess they actually say that for this day and age, for you to live a comfortable life, you need to be making 80 grand a year, which is crazy if you think about it. That's like over half of what we make. Matter of fact, if you combined our salaries together, you might make that.
You might make that.
Maybe. I don't know what his hourly rate is. He don't know what mine is. So I'm just guessing.
But it's in the ballpark of double what we make. Double both of us put together would probably make that livable wage.
Yeah.
And that's just goes back to the basics, guys, of why a roommate is absolutely necessary in 2025.
Yep. Which again, it goes back to me saying that's it become a new essential, which before wasn't. I mean, let's get on the hard to grasp subject that a lot of people don't like. Living with your parents as an adult. That's a tough one. Let me tell you, that's a tough one. I know
it happens every day.
That my best friend, before he got his house, which good for him, I'm grateful that he was able to accomplish that. He was living with his parents up until that time. And I mean, not getting into anything descriptive, but I remember one time he told me a situation where he literally almost got kicked out for going and buying something that he basically earned. But, being that he was still living under their roof, they were basically saying that they didn't like, the choice he made with it, which luckily they ended up resolving things and they didn't actually kick him out. They let him stay until he found his own house. But that's just, one example. Living with your parents while you're an adult trying to get on your feet in today's day and age, it's not hard. It's probably more stressful than a roommate because, you're living with people that will support you, but also at times that it can feel like that they're against you based off of them thinking that you're making poor decisions. And it's not you making poor decisions, you're just trying to live life and, de-stress, which in today's day and age, de-stressing is a hard thing to do. It's a very hard thing to do because most ways of de-stressing comes down to money. That's what it is.
I mean, I know one thing, and I actually have a buddy close to me who lives with his parents, and I think it's a situation of he's taking advantage a little bit. He's taking advantage a little bit. I say that because I'm not gonna expose anything because it might actually give away who it is immediately. He's in a relationship basically, and they're tying the knot. You know what I mean? Tying the knot at your parents' house, there's no need for that, dude. Okay. If you can't even, basically, you don't have it in you, or you don't have any financially to be able to leave your parents' house, what the hell are you doing marrying or buying a ring when you can't even basically buy a freaking roll of toilet paper for yourself? Dude.
That's just natural dumb young
Yeah,
people
I mean,
decisions in a nutshell.
just imagine you living with your parents and then getting married to some woman and you guys moving in with your parents married, dude.
I mean, how does that conversation go over?
That's
hey,
fucking...
Mom, Dad, we're getting married. Look, can we get an extra bedroom to stay the rest of our life?
We might even have a kid soon, just so you know. What the hell, man? That's like...
Right.
So that's... I could see some parents being a little bit upset, taking advantage. But I've also seen a lot of cases where it's just blatant utter disrespect for no reason, you know?
Yep.
When that should be the love of your life. Your child should always be the love of your life. For you to degrade someone of that nature and it being your child, it's taking it a step too far, bro.
Yep. Surely is.
It's not a stranger. You have to show love and compassion to these people. As your family, your brother, your whoever the hell it is, man. Oh yeah, you know, sorry to swear a little bit, but it hits me in my feelings a little bit because I've seen too many people black sheeped just for wanting to live a good life.
See, and this is just personal preference talking. Like, obviously, it's opinion. It's all it is. It's my opinion. But just in 2025, especially in this day and age, or just in general, marriage is... I don't want to sit here and cause debate or argument in the comments or just with whoever watching this video. But me personally, I think that marriage is one of those things, like, I'm just going to say it. I personally think it's a scam. It, not more or less so between the two people getting married, but for the aspect of, like, the government side, the side of it being on the law. I mean, technically speaking, all a marriage is you're signing a piece of paper that says, oh, you're married. But the thing is, are you really married, or is it just the aspect that assets are secured upon divorce if divorce happens? Because let's face it, if you love someone, you shouldn't have to sit there and pay money and sign your name on a piece of paper to state that you love someone. Love comes from the aspect that you understand each other, you know, you build your relationship on the foundation of trust, communication, you know, bonding, you know, sharing all those basically similar life values and all that. Because let's face it, you could have life values as someone, the same ones. Like, you don't have to get married to guarantee anything. If you're getting married, you're probably just trying to live the old style way where the man goes to work, takes care of the responsibilities, and then the man stays, or the woman stays home, sorry. The woman stays home, takes care of the kids, takes care of the house, does the laundry, cooks, all that stuff. Like, that in an older style type relationship, like, that makes sense. But in 2025 and in this day and age, like, if it takes a lot, especially for you to take care of yourself as an individual, and then you bring in somebody else, marriage in 2025 really isn't worth it anymore unless you actually want that older style type of relationship. But even then, you still gotta be very picky and careful of the choices you make, because, you know, you're talking about the aspect that it's not just one anymore, it's two. So taking care of two people is a lot more stress. It's a lot more things that need to be communicated. It's a lot more decisions to be making. And then also at the aspect, if you bring in kids on top of all that, you need a good salary at the end of the year. You need a good salary, probably $100K bare minimum, if not more. Or at least you need to be making a very bare minimum monthly salary at that. Like, a monthly salary where you need to be making anywhere from like 10 to 15K a month, which is extremely hard to do, especially considering we probably barely make even 3 a month, and we still have to get by. It's just, you know, it's again opinion. You guys don't have to believe that. Matter of fact, I'm not expecting you to believe that, but just all I'm gonna say is before you make a life altering decision like that, think it through. Discuss with your lover, partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. Discuss with them first. Make sure you guys are on the same page. Make sure you all have the same life values. If not, it can be a big waste of time, and then that could actually end up causing both of you to go through depression because you wasted the time, or you just worked everything up and got your hopes up, and then everything fell through. It just, again, personal preference, opinion. You guys don't have to believe that, but that's just my thought on it, honestly.
Oh, I think the same thing 100%. I actually have a couple friends who were saying the same thing, sometimes an animal could fix that itch that if you want a kid, that baby fever. Dude, don't go and have a kid just because you want a kid. Try a puppy first.
Mm-hmm.
Or something, because if you can't even do a puppy, what the hell are you doing it with a kid?
Yeah. People are just being dumb and irresponsible and young. They want that. I keep this appropriate. They want that special time. If you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure we all do. At least a good majority of us say. But let's be honest. Either talk about it ahead of time or use protection. Make the right decisions.
Again, we're in the highest poverty rate in the whole existence of existences. So we don't need any more homeless people, man. We can't afford this. Bringing children in the world when you can't even afford yourself is our greatest downfall as we speak. I just recently had a situation of hearing this woman speak about her own child was the most disgusting, vile, gruesome shit I've ever heard in my life. And if you're not going to be a parent, don't have a kid. Because just because you have a kid doesn't mean you're a parent. You never parented shit, dude. You can't even parent yourself. And you can't take care of nothing because you can't even take care of yourself.
It's actually a funny thing. Some people don't even notice that. I actually don't want kids, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah, I know 100%. That's why someone for you, what's your plan? So that's actually something I was going to ask you personally, or not personally, but honestly, a topic. I know you're not really a fan of having children, but is there any plans for any animals or anything in the future for you?
Oh, 100%.
For sure?
Bare minimum, I at least want 2 dogs.
Oh,
at
dude.
Bare minimum.
Any specific breed, or one will catch your eye when the time comes, you think?
So choices have been narrowed down to, I believe it's an Alaskan Shepherd.
Oh, dude.
Alaskan Shepherd.
Big dog?
Yeah, basically. I don't want, I love a German Shepherd. It's just, I want to be different.
Yeah.
Ever since I found the breed of Alaskan Shepherd, know that they exist, I thought it was... It's basically like German Shepherd meets wolf and Alaskan snow dog with the what do you call it, the sled dogs. It's like those 3 combined in one. An absolutely cool looking dog. And then you got your basic just golden retriever. That's what it is. Those dogs are absolutely lovable. Matter of fact, I think more times than not, probably every 9 out of 10 of those dogs, they're probably they're probably more of a freaking baby than, what would you even say?
Golden retrievers and freaking labs are some of the nicest dogs I've ever met. Especially labs, chocolate labs are really nice. Freaking big, basically big brown bears. I had really good luck with labs, black labs growing up.
If not those dogs, I definitely know a corgi for sure. A corgi, nice small dog to have.
Yeah, I love small dogs too. I like yappers, man.
I'd like to have a Frenchie, but they're
I love them. I
really,
just heard they're full of health issues.
yeah, full of health issues. They're hard to take care of. Like you have to be very careful on what you get. You can't even give them regular water. You have to give them like a very specific type of water.
Fucking alkaline treated.
They have to eat very specific food and all that.
I
It's a
heard
little
their stomachs
difficult.
get really upset quick.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
It's bad.
They do. Like maybe a regular bulldog or just maybe some kind of like other small dog that's easy to take care of.
They can't breathe. Their bones have a specific structure to where they just walk like this all the time.
Yep.
Basically, they're so cute though. With the colors they can create on them.
Yeah.
Like merle colors and tri colors where they're brown, black, and white at the same goddamn time.
Yep.
It's pretty beautiful what they do in the dog world, but it's also kind of sad, when you get to the dark side of how they use and manipulate these animals to profit.
Mm-hmm.
Basically profit, dude. That's how they created pugs.
Mm-hmm.
Is profit. They didn't care about the health of them, and they're ugly as shit, but it's a good profit. Because they're cute in an ugly way. They're ugly in a cute way.
Yep. Also, pit bulls and staffies. Pit bulls and staffies. And, like, blue staffies, too. Like, people say those are, like, the most dangerous dog. Like, dude, come on. They take freaking German Shepherds and Belgian Mastiffs, and they literally train those dogs for military and police use. How are you going to sit there and tell me a freaking pit bull is more aggressive than a war-trained dog? Like, yeah, sure, they have a bite that if they latch onto you, they can't let go. But yet, how many police agencies, how many militaries actually use pit bulls? And
I have seen way more German Shepherd attacks than I've ever seen pit bull.
Yep.
And not just attacks out of nowhere. No, planned attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Where he says, get his ass.
Yep.
And they lay him down. They're quick to attack you with no problem. Now, a pit bull, I think that they're usually, when that happens, they're scared into that.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, get the fuck away from me, get away from me.
Besides that, you're also talking about the aspect that the dogs train that way. Dogs are only that way when they've been trained improperly. If the dog was trained properly, especially a pit bull or a blue staffy or a staffy, if those dogs are trained properly, they're more of a baby than you will ever be.
Oh, dude, it's all about training.
Especially if you train them dogs the right way, they will whine if they do not get enough attention. They will whine to the point they will annoy the shit out of you until you give them the attention they want.
Yeah. No, and you're right, it's all about training because I've seen chihuahuas that will run at you and attack you, no problem. Like, as soon as they see you. Versus a pit bull that'll cower down, And my old lady was just telling me a story of her friend's cat. She has to hold the thing by the back of the neck when people come in because it tries to, like, hiss at them like it's a fucking pit bull.
Yep.
And that's a cat, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't imagine dealing with something like that, but...
I mean, it's a little ridiculous. You got people training dogs in the wrong way, and then these dogs are getting put down because people think, oh, you can't retrain them. Oh, you can always retrain a dog. It's just, can you retrain a human? It's like, that's another thing people don't like talking about, and I'm going to talk about it. It's like the aspect that if a human does something violent, those humans, or human, their mind is set up in the aspect that they can, and most likely will, do it again. And that won't change. Whereas an animal, you could always retrain an animal. Like,
you can teach an old dog new tricks.
Yes, you can teach an old dog new tricks if a dog is aggressive, and you got rescues from like your SPCA or your local shelter or whatever it is. Those dogs can be retrained.
Yeah,
Matter of fact,
and it's catering to what they need.
Yeah. Matter of fact, most of those dogs anyway, they're trained to be violent, but I guarantee you most of those dogs are probably like scared because like they probably sit there in the corner, cower in fear and shake until you actually show them the trust that they need to be able to be retrained.
Oh yeah, they fight out of fear too.
Yeah.
And it's the same way as how speaking of animals, me and my lady were looking for another cat recently because her cat of 14 years passed away. She's finally mentally ready to have another one. I think a year, not even a year later now. It's back. But anyways, there is really no free kittens anymore. You have to pay money now because so many people have used them for dogfighting rings as lure baits.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, like we're forced to pay $100 for what would have been a free kitten.
Yeah.
But anyways, have you ever heard of a Highlander lynx cat?
Yes, I have.
Actually, but these things have round ears and bob tails, which is basically just like a nub.
Mm-hmm.
But that might be my next new pickup, dude. We were looking at a couple. They were super cute, but you have to be wary of pages. People will scam you at any moment they can, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we found a buyer that's in our area, supposedly. I'll show you some pictures later, but I love cats. I've always been a cat guy.
See, I don't have anything wrong with cats. It's just I actually don't know what it is. If anyone watching this could possibly tell me, I've actually had the aspect where I've experienced several different cats, and some of them I'm fine around. Others give me allergic reactions, like sneezing, constant itching, stuff like that. It's weird. Really, what intrigues me is the fact that my grandmother has had two different cats in the last 20 years. The first one I was perfectly fine with. The second one has absolutely made me break out hives, itching, make me sneeze, allergies. Like it's crazy.
And I'm not specific hair length. Or they're all like the same hair length.
See, I don't honestly know. Like I would love to know myself because I've always found that a mystery.
But then like a short hair cat, like a normal cat, versus like a long haired one that's fucking poofy.
Yeah. But then my sister's had multiple cats throughout the last 15 years. And like the first cat that she had that I was around, like that cat really didn't do anything to me, but like the second cat that she had, like that one absolutely made me break out in hives, itching. But now the cat she has now today, or multiple or whatever, like those cats I was fine.
You're allergic to cats or some?
I guess some. I mean, I don't know. It's weird. Like I would love to know about it myself.
It's got to be the specific like hair type or something. Maybe it's just when they're shedding though, dude. If the dust particles of them are in the air or something, it makes you go crazy.
Could be.
Because shedding season gets really bad. Even people who don't have like bad reactions, shedding season can make it bad.
Yeah. Well, guys, this has been fun. Very big special thank you to my guest.
Absolutely.
First one of season 2.
First one, plenty more to come, hopefully.
Yeah, plenty more to come, hopefully. And, yeah, just again, cannot thank him enough. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching all my videos. If you guys do like my videos, please consider subscribing to the madness. If you don't like any of my videos, I greatly hope that you find the content you're looking for on YouTube. And don't be afraid to leave a comment if you want. You can like if you want. That's totally up to you. I'm not going to ask you who likes. But as always, guys, thank you guys for watching. And see you guys in the next video.